And today, the Israeli government's holding a state memorial ceremony for those murdered in the October 7th attacks. It comes as the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is holding, but with signs of strain. Concerns are growing over whether Hamas will disarm and fulfill its pledge to return the remains of all hostages. ABC News Chief Foreign Correspondent Ian Pannell is in Israel tracking those developments.
Yeah, hi Diane. Growing questions and concerns about this fragile peace deal. President Trump warning if Hamas doesn't choose to disarm, the US will force them to. Also telling CNN Israel can restart the war as soon as I say the word. So look, there are a number of issues that have emerged. One is disarming Hamas. The militants have been reasserting their control in the parts of Gaza that the IDF has withdrawn from against other armed groups, some of them organised based around clans, family clans, others criminal elements. But their methods have sometimes been violent. Horrific images emerging in a video verified by ABC News appearing to show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution. Another issue is the return of the bodies of the hostages. Only 9 of the 28 have been handed over so far, with the Israeli government accusing Hamas of stalling and the IDF instructed to draw up new war plans. But Hamas is saying they've returned all the bodies they can without assistance. Don't forget that so much of Gaza has been razed to the ground. There are mountains and mountains of debris, and of course some of the bodies may well be underneath that. So an international search team has been dispatched to try and help with that process. Despite all of these issues, senior US advisors now saying that the fragile peace deal does seem to be holding, and they're saying that Hamas is making every effort to return the remaining hostages, but aid still isn't flowing freely into Gaza either. But I think in a sign of President Trump's commitment, the advisors also saying, look, there are going to be hiccups. The intention is to keep both of these parties working, getting them to show restraint and creating the right conditions for A, demilitarization of Gaza, and B, of course, that mammoth task of reconstruction. Diane?
That sure is. Ian Pannell, thank you. And the International Committee of the Red Cross spokesperson, Sarah Davies, is here for more. Sarah, thank you for coming on. You know, as Ian mentioned, Hamas has only returned 9 of these 28 dead hostages, saying that's all they can do without assistance. I know the ICRC is helping to facilitate those returns. So why the delay?
Thank you, Diane, for having me on. In any conflict zone, in any area where there has been destruction all around the world, we know that there are complexities in the retrieval of human remains. I can't definitively speak to the challenges that may lie ahead in the coming days, but what I do know and what the International Committee of the Red Cross is committed to is having these families receive closure. Families don't give up on their loved ones, and neither will we. We stand prepared to do this work for as long as it takes to ensure that all those hostages deceased are returned to their families so they can mourn properly and have a dignified burial in line with their beliefs.
The ICRC also helped return living hostages on Monday. What went into that operation, and what was it like to see it happen?
It is always a very, very complex operation, both logistic-wise, administratively-wise, personnel, the vehicles we use. We, of course, have done these operations before, but this was on a larger scale. We are in very regular contact with both parties to the conflict at all times. We deploy extra staff, we bring in extra vehicles, and we really do our best to ensure that this release and transfer, the release and return, is done with the dignity of those involved. Whatever they may have been through, our job is to be there and reassure them and let them know that they will be returned to their homes and their families very soon.
Many Palestinians are returning to communities that are entirely destroyed. What are you and your team seeing in Gaza?
The humanitarian situation in Gaza, it is and remains catastrophic. While, of course, a ceasefire is welcome where civilians are no longer living with hostilities, the everyday challenges still exist. There are still struggles to access enough food and safe water, medical treatment, and there is also the risk of things like unexploded ordnance, unexploded weapons that still remain in Gaza. People are only now beginning to take a breath and stop trying to survive every hour, and the humanitarian response ahead of us is very, very large.
We saw that disturbing video appearing to show Hamas carrying out a public execution. How dangerous is it for civilians in Gaza right now, even amid this ceasefire? And how confident are you Hamas will disarm?
In any conflict, particularly when it has been running for months or years, lawlessness can surface. Our concerns, we take directly to parties to conflict. So we take these directly to Hamas and have these conversations with them, the same as we do with Israel. Should we have any discussions with them, we work very closely with, whenever possible, the local first responders and local service providers, and we remain committed to that. But for civilians right now, the humanitarian situation, what they're living with every single day, even with a ceasefire in place, with no hostilities ongoing, it is very stressful for them. It causes anxiety. They are, struggling every single day. And while, as I said, we welcome this ceasefire and agreement, things on the ground for civilians remain very, very drastic, and it's a very dire situation.
So what are you hoping for as leaders negotiate the next phase of this deal, and what role will the ICRC play in it?
We always hope that civilians are put at the heart of any agreement, any discussion. What families in Israel and others around the world have lived with for the last 2 years, what civilians in Gaza have lived with, this needs to be addressed. There are going to be short, intermediate, and long-term needs that need to be addressed. We stand ready to facilitate and support this in any way that we can with our experience and our expertise in working in conflict zones all around the world.
All right, ICRC spokesperson Sarah Davies, thank you.